This is Birds 365, hosted by the new Mac and Mac, Jody McDonald and John McMullen.
Here we go!
Who collectively have covered and talked about more than 50 plus years of Eagles football. Kick off your day with Birds 365. You'll get debate. We love to argue. You'll get the real story from inside the locker room. And you'll hear from some of the great football minds from around the region. You're about to become an Eagles insider. Get in the game. Join Jody Mack and Johnny Mack and join the football community that flocks to Birds 365. Birds 365 starts right now.
Welcome to the NFL. Let's go! Let's go! Go!
And welcome into another undefeated Monday. We said this a couple weeks in a row. Now we'll continue to say it for a couple of weeks if the Eagles continue to do exactly what they did yesterday, which is win, easily handling the Pittsburgh Steelers. John McMullen was down at the link to take it all in. I'd say it was a pretty good day, John, wouldn't you?
Yeah. This is the way I expected this game to go. I kind of said on the show last week, I mean, I didn't see any way Pittsburgh was even going to be competitive in this game, and it's kind of how it shook out. I mean, the Eagles dominated, and it's look, I said it yesterday on the post-game show, Jody. This is a good team, and they keep putting these hurdles up, and people say, well, bad opponent, rookie quarterback, blah, blah, blah. I get all that. That's why I said it wasn't going to be competitive, but we know this league, and everybody has bad weeks and everybody has bad games, and the Eagles keep finding ways to get over these hurdles. And the bye week is one of those hurdles because Nick said one thing in front of the cameras, but the Eagles put up one of his team meetings on their website. He was giving them examples of teams that had good starts and came out of a bye and were playing a lesser opponent on paper, and they laid an egg. It's happened before. It didn't happen to the Eagles. They completely dominated that football game, and they should have, and they get better and better each week.
When you combine a team that's playing very good football, Eagles, against a team that's not playing very well, Steelers, you get what you get, which is a 3-touchdown lopsided victory, 35-13, which between you and I didn't think it was really even all that close.
No.
It was actually more of a domination than the final score may have indicated. And that was one of those hurdles. You used the word hurdles. The Eagles had not played a full 60-minute game. They had played enough of them to go 6-0, which is kind of all you want to see. But if you're striving for perfection, like the quarterback seems to be, that's all that he talks about. We still can get better.
It's amazing. The standard. It is funny because I'm writing about that. I wrote about it, and they keep talking about the standard. Jalen Hurts, Nick Sirianni. They never define it because it doesn't exist. They can't reach it. It's you can't be perfect. And Jalen finally gave it up yesterday. I asked him the question. I said, and he admitted, we're never going to reach it because you're always striving for better. Even if you win every game, even if you're the 72 Miami Dolphins, they didn't play perfect every minute. There's always a little bit better you can be, and that's the impressive part to me, Jody, is how many people have bought into that. And it starts with the good players because A.J. Brown was the first player up on the podium after the game. And he was exactly like Jalen Hurts. He wanted to talk about the plays he didn't make before he talked about the plays he did. He was really upset that he had the one drop. He was really upset that he got caught from behind on what could have been a fourth touchdown. And he didn't want to talk about the touchdowns. He wanted to talk about the plays he left on the field. Jalen does that constantly. It's pretty impressive. I mean, I talk about human nature a lot. You know, when you play well, and they celebrate. I'm not saying they don't celebrate, but you generally want to kick back and say, "Yeah, I did a pretty good job." At least with the stars of this team. Sorry, Jody. At least with the stars of this team, they're like, you know, I could have done this. I could have done that.
Did Brown talk about taking the penalty after the touchdown when he pointed to his defenders, which that's a subjective call. There's some subjectivity to
that bothers
NFL.
me. Yeah,
it was really kind of like calling him on the carpet for something that wasn't all that harsh. Now, I got in a debate with my buddy on CBS Sports Radio last night who said that they should have forgiven DJ Moore, who scored the touchdown last play of regulation or close to the last play, got the game tied in the Panther game. He took his helmet off. That's obvious. You take your helmet off at the 15-yard penalty. AJ Brown went like this. He pointed a couple of times, and they threw the flag on him, which I thought was a little, what do we say all the time, John? Over officiated.
Yeah.
I
mean, one of the most famous plays in recent history, if you watch it, we always talk about it. Marcus Williams, the week before the Minnesota came here to get trounced by the Eagles in the championship game, was the Minnesota Miracle, Stephon Diggs. If you watch it, he takes his helmet off, and here comes all the flags. The whole place is going bananas. The game's over. You know, he takes off his helmet to celebrate. No, the flags come in. Yeah, the league is kind of silly with this stuff, but that is the rule. And he talked about it. He said 1, 2, and at the time it was 2. Ultimately, he got 3. I don't like those calls. You know, Mike Missinelli was asking me on the post-game show, and I didn't even say it because I'm at the stadium, but Jason Kelsey, evidently, when he came out of the game, he put on a Batman mask.
You didn't see the Batman mask? They showed it on television.
I saw it later, but and I talked to him about it, but my mentality has always been if you're an opponent upset by stuff like that, just stop the other team, and they can't celebrate. I don't care. A taunting, I don't care about that stuff. If you don't want that to happen to you, you'll play better. It's always been my sentiment.
Here's where I think you draw the line, because I understand what the NFL is trying to do. If you're physically threatening, if you're getting up and bumping into another guy and you're escalating a situation that can lend itself to emotions taking over and somebody's starting a fight, okay, yeah, I get that. Pointing at a guy after you beat him for a touchdown? Come on. Keep that flag in your back pocket.
And you said it well. There's got to be some common sense involved. Yeah, you're trying to stop the escalation. It's a very emotional game. I get it. You don't want fights to start. But there's common sense involved. And somebody pointing at somebody reaches that level. Now, the problem is, Jody, you never know how the other guy's feeling, right? So if he's so upset that he might take it as disrespect. So I get the NFL's thought process, but I mean, Jerry Glanville, no fun league back in the day. There's too much of that. And, they allowed celebrations back in the game, which I applauded. Remember, for many years, you couldn't celebrate. You had to celebrate. There was very stringent rules. You couldn't have these team celebrations, which I don't like, by the way, but I don't have a problem with them either. You couldn't do that, and for a very long time, and they allowed them back in the game. And all right, if you're going to be that stringent on taunting, why are you allowing them back in the game? I mean, people could get up to every time any NFL team gets a turnover. What do? They run down as a team to celebrate in front of the it's become cliched. Why isn't that taunting? I don't know.
Right, because you're not doing it in the face of the opponent. Again, it's a tricky thing, and when the NFL gets it wrong, we're going to call it out here on Birds 365, and I thought they messed that yesterday. But let's knock it off on a tangent. When the Eagles win 35-13, they dominate the entire game. Jalen Hurts throws 4 touchdown passes, a career high.
Yeah.
So many things went right in this game yesterday that we do want to touch down over the course of the next 2 hours. I don't want to get off on a tangent about celebration. We should be celebrating Jalen Hurts, certainly AJ Brown, because he may, at the end of the day, be the biggest offseason acquisition in the National Football League. In a league that is dominated by quarterbacks, and some major quarterbacks move this offseason. You might have talk about winning wages. You might, if you can make a bet on that. I don't know how you decided, because it'd be subjective. Kind of like when the NFL throws a flag for over celebration. He has just been stone cold dominant, whether he got a penalty or not. The first touchdown was purely an athletic play by him that I don't know too many other guys in the league have the even capabilities of mentioning. How good was AJ Brown yesterday in your eyes?
Yeah, man. A lot of Randy Mossness with that first touchdown. I thought was a bad throw, one of the few bad throws in the game from Jalen Hurts. Seen it live from overhead, I'm like, well, that's double coverage, all right. And Minkah Fitzpatrick did a really bad job trying to, defend that pass. But even with that, AJ Brown, yeah, I mean, he just went up and mossed the two of them. I think Terrell Edmonds was the other in double coverage. And then the other 2 touchdowns, those were just perfect throws by Jalen Hurts. He's really good at that go route, sort of mid-range, 25 to 35 yards, dropping it in a bucket. But also, A.J. Brown shows those late hands, as he likes to call them, puts them up at the last minute, and that's what Randy used to do. And I remember it's kind of fun when you look back and you talk to these guys. He was working on that throughout training camp. We had discussions about that on numerous occasions, and he was working on it, wanted to add it to his game. And then you see it in a live game, and you go, wow, look at what he's able to do. And then, yeah, I mean, that he said that was the first time he was ever caught from behind. He had a chance for another in the NFL. He had a chance for another touchdown, and he had a big drop that he thought could have went for a touchdown in the middle of the field. I don't think it would have been a touchdown, but the confidence of these guys, it would have been a big play. And that was a career high for him, receiving yards and touchdowns. Could have been even bigger. Yeah, he was dominant. Unfortunately for AJ Brown, everybody's like, another player of the week. Nah, Christian McCaffrey ruined that later in the afternoon.
Yeah, a couple of guys had big games around the NFL, and Jalen Hurts wasn't going to get player of the week either, but maybe personal player of certainly this year and or his career. Man, is this guy advanced. John, it was probably a half hour, maybe an hour after the game, which I felt when I felt the need, because you and I have talked about it plenty on Birds 365, and we will continue to talk about it. He's made himself a $200 million man. He's going to get a 4 or 5 year contract. It's going to be in excess of $40 million. It may be in excess of $50 million. The way that he's played, and this is not just off to a quick start. Hey, that's a very impressive game. This is 7-0, and him being a major part of every single Eagle victory so far. He's ranking in the top 5 in NFL quarterbacks in almost every single category. When you're talking about a contract extension at this time, we're talking about a $200 million man in Jalen Hurts, John McMullen.
Yeah. I mean, he is playing at such a high level. And those, it was funny. We always talk about dual threat quarterbacks in this league. And I think a lot of teams are tilting that direction more and more and more because of players like Jalen, not only, but Lamar and, but Jalen as well. And even Kyler Murray, but, he called himself a triple threat, in the press conference yesterday, and that to me is the most impressive part of Jalen Hurts is the mental aspect. He's he's reading plays correctly. He's putting the football where it should be. He's the two touchdowns, the two go route touchdowns, he sees AJ Brown in single coverage, and he's putting it in a position to where it should be. He's getting the Eagles out of bad plays with some of these kill options. He's number 2 in the MVP race, and if you look at all the betting markets, and he probably should be behind Josh Allen, but he is number 2. I mean, he's number 2.
Yep.
And who knows what happens? A lot of football to play, but he's having an amazing, amazing season. This team's been around since 1933, Jody? No quarterback in the history of this franchise has won 10 consecutive starts. Jalen Hurts has.
Yeah, 10-0, put him over the top, broke the tie with a bunch of guys. We know. They got beat by Tampa last year, but we're talking about regular season games. 10 in a row, any team, any place, anytime, anywhere is phenomenal football, and he's done so here in Philadelphia, and the first one to ever do it. So, for those of you, and there are very few left, when the season started, Johnny Mack, and I kicked this in last year before the Eagles season, and people go, with Jalen Hurts, why are we going to this guy? You should have kept Carson Wentz. A lot has changed during the year and change history of Birds 365.
And look, there was, I talked about AJ in the late hands. Another cool aspect of seeing this development is, Nick Sirianni. Nick says things that sometimes become trite because he says them so often, a dog mentality, things like that. And you kind of get used to it and maybe even roll your eyes a little bit. But with Jalen Hurts, he always said, and he always says to this day, I don't know what his ceiling is, but he's going to reach it because of his work ethic and his desire to be the best player he can be. Well, I mean, he's surpassed any ceiling that I thought he had already. And so I don't know what his ceiling is, but I'm with Nick. He's going to reach it. It's tough to poke holes in Jalen Hurts right now. And that doesn't mean he's not going to have bad games. Everybody has bad games. You can go back to, the 2 best regular season quarterbacks I've ever seen are Tom Brady and Peyton Manning, certainly in the modern era. They had bad games in the primes of their careers. Everybody's going to have bad games. That's not going to say he's not going to have a bad game. But right now, it's tough to poke holes in Jalen Hurts.
I'll take Sirianni's stance to another level. Not only whatever his ceiling is, he's going to reach it. When he gets there, he's going to stay there because of his work ethic, because he put so much time and effort in, because he is so dedicated, because he set such high standards for himself. And oh, by the way, if this is his ceiling, I'm okay with that. There doesn't have to be further growth. There might be, don't know that, but it doesn't have to be. It's like one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And the Eagles can't win a Super Bowl with his quarterback play and everything else they got going for him. I'm telling you, it's not going to be on the quarterback. It's not going to be on Jalen Hurts. All right, John McMullen, Jody McDonald, Mac and Mac guys. Oh, I see him. He's in the green room, ready to rock and roll. We're lucky enough to have Jeff Mosher from InsideTheEagles.com and
Inside the Birds.
InsideTheBirds.com and website. Coming up next, always good. Love when we have Mosher on. Jeff Mosher next with us here on Birds 365.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
Since 1977 at Rafferty Subaru, we have always been about our customers and the community. Early on, a safe and durable option, we've evolved to become the best overall brand according to Kelley Blue Book. Over the last 14 years, we've donated thousands of dollars through the Subaru Share the Love event and found homes for hundreds of pets. The Rafferty family is proud of our 45 years in business. This month, celebrate our anniversary with special financing on select models. Visit us and see why.
the greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but now that we've had a taste, we're looking for more. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Welcome to Pondley Hockey. We've helped over 100,000 injured and disabled workers obtain benefits, as well as some of the biggest settlements in the state. If you've been injured at work, give Pondley Hockey a call.
Philly sports fans, I'm Tom Giordano from Pondley Hockey Giordano. First and foremost, thank you for watching the Pondley Hockey postgame show. But right now, we're giving away tickets to the World Series. Follow Pondley Hockey on Instagram and check out our posts for your chance to win tickets to all 3 Phillies home games. Go Phillies and go Birds.
Appreciate you streaming in here on Birds 365. Joey McDonald along with John McMullen. And we got Jeff Mosher from InsideTheBirds.com and the podcast to jump in with us. He's looking borderline smug. Now that's me maybe overanalyzing.
Wow.
Like the referees pointing to the giving A.J. Brown the penalty for pointing to the opposition. Am I reading you right, Mosher? This team is that good right now that you've gotten a little smug, guilty of charge. I'll take the same hit here. I'm kind of smug about the Eagles' chances right now.
I thought this was a personal shot, Mosher.
First of all, I've been called a lot worse. By Jody. Jody has called me worse than smug. So no,
I kid because I care, and I can.
Appreciate it. It's my morning look, but listen, man, if the Eagles want to feel smug about being 7-0, they sure can. There's no reason for them not to.
Yeah. I mean, boy, I find it harder and harder to nitpick with this team, Jeff. Special teams still, some other Brandon had a penalty he shouldn't have taken, and you had another fake punt that converted. But
yeah.
I keep saying that's going to bite them in the what in upcoming weeks, but they're so good offensively and defensively. Somebody asked me, what do you think they should do? It might have been Jody, but I've been doing so many shows recently. But what can they do better offensively? And I got a tough time coming up with it. Do you have anything?
Well, it's funny. We spent a lot of our bye week on Inside the Birds doing the whole self-scouting thing. Where can teams improve? Every team, no matter how good it is, goes into the bye week. They look at the data and the analytics, and they see what do we do well, and how do we make sure that everybody else who sees what we do well doesn't then stop that. So whether it's running different plays out of the same formation or trying some new things like they did yesterday to make sure that they're not stale. The one thing we talked about with the Eagles is sort of bringing the shot play back into their offense, because the last 3 games, the Jacksonville game, the Arizona game, and then the game, the Dallas game going into the bye, they were only averaging around 7 yards per attempt.
They did.
So, and that was a big drop off from the first 3 games. And so what do? They just come out and do nothing but shot plays, obviously. So yeah, there you go. And we thought Quez Watkins was maybe somebody that could find a role in the offense to be the shot play guy, but no, I guess A.J. Brown and who would have thought Zach Pascal would join the shot play parade there? in that game. So they're such a well-balanced team, John, to your point, that they have the ability to hurt you in so many different ways. And it is nitpicky to start finding ways where they're not hurting teams.
All right. Since we've gotten nitpicky, let's see, waited 25 minutes because I certainly noticed this yesterday. The offensive coaches, play callers, Sirianni, whatever, were on top of things and smart enough to see maybe we need to get our superstar players off the field, including the quarterback. So they subbed out a bunch of guys, a couple on the offensive line, the QB. On defense, the back seven never moved off the field. They kept their safeties out there. They kept their corners out there for every snap. And they kept their linebackers out there for every snap. I said to John here on Friday, listen, if the Eagles get a blowout, which was a possibility, and they did, does Nakobe Dean do anything other than special teams anymore? He never sees a snap from scrimmage. Now, I'm not suggesting that he should be just getting in there for sake purposes when the game is yet to be decided. Kaiser White and TJ Edwards have been good enough. They don't deserve to come off the field. But if you're going to pull off other players because you're acknowledging it's a blowout, how do you not get Nakobe Dean onto the field?
You know what? It's a fair point. I can't really argue it. It would have been a pretty good opportunity to get him on the field there. I can't imagine. I don't know if it was asked in the press conference, John. You could probably answer that. Why they pulled him off with guys in defense.
That's mainly. I was looking for JG in the locker room. I did not see him. I was going to ask him, but Nick's not going to answer that question. So I will ask Jonathan this week. Well, hopefully
Tuesday, happy Tuesday. Not for Nakobe Dean since he can't get on the field.
Yeah, I mean.
Did they have? If they wanted to pull their starting corners, they could have played McPherson at one.
Yeah, exactly.
They've been able to play at the other corner because Joe was not active.
Josiah Scott got hurt.
Scott got hurt.
Yeah. So they could have, as you mentioned, they could have put. They didn't put Zach in there, which surprised me a little bit.
Right.
Nakobe as well. They did do stuff on the defensive line, like Brandon was dealing with a hamstring, so he didn't play that much. They got They even had Kyron Johnson. I'm just looking at the snap counts involved a little bit. Patrick Johnson up at 26 reps. So they did it on the defensive line, the front seven, and that's a rotational position to begin with. They didn't do it in the secondary. I mean, Slay and Bradbury played every snap. Yeah. And the linebackers played the vast majority of the game. Avante played the vast majority. I probably would have pulled them.
Yeah, the only thing I would wonder is if body count there in the backups would have made it possible. They lost two guys in the secondary and they're not very deep a corner anyway. So
yeah, but I mean, I would have put Zach out there and I would have put Nakobe out.
Yeah, I think so.
That was one. I don't know why, other than, one of the things you talked about self-scout, Jeff, the Eagles came up with 8 categories. Now, Nick wouldn't tell us what those 8 categories were. 3 were pretty obvious to me. The second half scoring, offensively, tackling defensively, and then, of course, special teams. There were some, they want to get Dallas Goddard more involved in third down. Ball security. I don't know how they get better in ball security.
They're the only team in the NFL that hasn't lost a fumble, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, 0 fumbles lost. They're positive in every category. They're plus 14 on the season. I don't know how you get better there.
Yeah.
But to get back to the original point of why no Zach McPherson, why no Nakobe Dean, maybe the tackling issue. I don't know. Maybe they want to keep him sharp for the tackling part of it.
Yeah, and Chauncey is still learning that position. I mean, he's played well, and he has
Kayvon. All these I should have put Kayvon barely, but I think Kayvon had 1 snap. So.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's a fair point. It's a fair criticism, Jody. But so yesterday's news.
If they had done it across the board, if we hadn't seen Juergens get into the game for Kelsey, I'd say, all right, they just stay with their starters. That's the team philosophy. We play every single snap, no matter what the scoreboard says. You pulled the MVP quarterback to get Gardner Minshew in there. You put Jurgens in there. The one side of the ball did it, the other didn't. That doesn't make any sense to me. That means that either Steichen or Gannon aren't on the same page with Sirianni right now.
They pulled the whole offensive line except for Landon Dickerson. And on the first play with the new offensive line, Landon was the guy who got called for the penalty.
Go figure. Go figure.
But
well, the short turnaround clearly, I imagine that had a lot to do with it too, to get those guys out of there on offense.
Yeah. And, defensively, you can make the same argument. I know, they were working on
short week for the defense too this week coming up.
True.
They were working in the locker room. They had the trainers, they had everything set up, they had the bikes set up, they had the back thing set up, they had guys getting massages after the game.
I believe it.
They were very focused on getting guys bounced back quickly. So they know, Thursday. As for the defense, I don't know. That's all I can come up with. They want to sharpen those guys up because the tackling hasn't been great.
Fire everybody.
Yeah.
We're not going
JG gave up 13 points, though. 6 sacks. Is everyone happy this week? No, everybody's not happy this week.
Well, they should be.
So you're saying, John, it's not a legitimate and fair question?
No, it's a fair question. I'll ask him the question, but I'm going to default to his I think he's having a great year. Everybody knows I like Jonathan. Everybody knows we're kind of close, but he's a good coach. So I give him the benefit of the doubt.
Hold on. Let me ask John. I said to you on Friday before you left, will you get a chance to talk to John again? And would he get Nakobe Dean in? You didn't make that request, did you?
I already knew the answer. I did.
Well, if you had, maybe he would have thought of it. Maybe he was so wrapped up in game planning and making sure they got their it went right over his head. And if his buddy, his boy McMullen, had said something to him, maybe we'd have thought long and hard enough to go, maybe we need to get our subs in here.
I think bad job by the assistant defensive coordinator, John McMullen.
Actually, McMullen's now, he's sounding a little smug.
Actually, well, he's got a good defense. I don't know if people have noticed, but he's got a good defense. I thought, and I said on the show, if they blow them out, maybe he'll get a couple reps at the end of the game. I thought maybe he would.
22 wasn't enough? Getting up by 22 points wasn't
enough? I'm surprised he didn't. I'm surprised he didn't get some. I'm surprised Kayvon. I'm really surprised Zach McPherson didn't get some reps. That's the biggest surprise to me. I thought he would come in for Slay relatively early. So I'm a little surprised. I admit it, but the difference is I'll ask the question, but I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I mean, it's a good defense.
It's a very good defense, but it's still
this is definitely some 7-0 problems right here, man.
Yeah, exactly.
And we know where they go from here, which is Houston, which, oh, by the way, they got a problem. They're not very good. I won't say the Eagles just have to throw their helmets out there on the field, but it's damn close to it. What are they looking to do on this quick turnaround week, Jeff? What do you think the game plan is? What do you think the coach is going to try and accomplish on a Thursday night trip down south?
Yeah, I mean, I think you tend to keep it simpler on a short rest, which probably actually favors the Eagles over the Texans, because when the Eagles keep it simple, they go to their ground game. And then the Texans play a lot of 2 deep anyway. So they're with Lovie Smith there. So I think it invites you to want to run in the first place. So that'll be really the challenge that faces the Texans. Can they stop the Eagles' run game? And I think for the Eagles will draw up a few things, but for the most part, they'll do what they do. I don't think this is not the week where you see a lot of gadgetry, where you see a lot of new. If there's anything new, it's that they were planning on it during the bye week as well and looking a little bit ahead. But you try not to do that. So I think it'll be a fairly honest kind of game plan, and you just go out there, and it's really, you have to look at the situation like Nick Sirianni, where you're the better team, you have the better talent. The one thing you can't do is, make goofball mistakes, turn the ball over, which they haven't done. Keep it simple, come out with a W, play good defense, and then you're 8-0 with an extra rest.
Well, one legitimate concern, not nitpicking. Jordan
Mhm.
Davis is going to miss some time.
Yeah.
High ankle sprain, typically a 4 or 6 week injury, depending. He's going to get an MRI. Probably already has this morning, but um, he doesn't play a ton statistically, but I think enough people don't realize how important he is to those 5-man fronts. They don't
Right.
really have a backup for Jordan
No.
Davis who can do those same things.
Right.
That's one where I go, then you have to play more 4-man fronts. Are you as effective? That could have a domino effect in a negative fashion for this Eagles defense.
Well, they didn't have him last year, and they played 5-man fronts on first and second down or against the run with Jannard Avery. And so that's what you have to wonder. Do they go back to doing that where it's more of a, they don't have the zero technique in Jordan Davis, so they go back to playing, like Fletch in a 4-eye or Javon in a 4-eye, and then you've got you can use sort of Brandon Graham and Josh Sweat as your ends with Reddick playing that sort of Jannard Avery role. So it still gives you like a 5-man front. If you want to do that in first and second down, then you get into your 4-man fronts to rush the passer. Or, one of the things that they liked about Marlon Tuipulotu coming out of USC 2 years ago was that he actually played over the center at times. He played both a 3 technique and over the center at USC. And it's one of the reasons they liked him in the 5th round. They thought he had that kind of multiplicity to be able to handle both. Now, he's clearly not going to get at 305 pounds. He's not going to give you what you get from Jordan Davis. That's why I thought for a little bit, early in the offseason that maybe a guy like Noah Ellis that they brought in from Utah.
So did I.
Idaho, would have a chance to make the team as the backup nose because he was a 350-pound guy. So either they're going to be schematically different like last year, or they're going to try to see if a guy like Marlon Tuipulotu, maybe Marvin Wilson from the practice squad, can sort of be the zero technique. It wouldn't surprise me if they tried a little bit of both just to see what they can get away with there.
The reason why I think you're right, Jeff, about them reverting to last year is at least this week, that was as good as Fletcher, Cox, and Hargrave have played all year long. I think if you were grading out all 7 games, both of them will get their highest grade yesterday. Now, part of that was because Davis was on the field, the plays he was on the field, and he does make everything a little bit easier for the defensive line. But they were as active and as mobile as I'd seen them all year long. I don't know how much you attribute that to the Steelers' offensive line not being real good, but I'm not going to go into a panic mode because Davis is out, because the guys around him all picked them up big time yesterday.
Yeah, well, I'll throw in another factor that might have lit a little fire especially under Javon Hargrave, is that the addition of Robert Quinn gave the Eagles, if they want, the ability to kind of turn back the clock a little bit and play a little NASCAR package, which would move Brandon Graham inside, put Reddick and Quinn on the outside, and that only leaves you with one other guy next to Graham on the inside, either Cox or Hargrave. And if you were going with the hot hand, I don't think Hargrave has had the kind of year this year up until yesterday, right, that you saw from him last year. And he's also on the last year of his deal. He doesn't have an extension. They're playing a different defensive line front. So, look, I don't know if that was in their heads or anything like that, but certainly when you add another pass rusher to the mix and you have more opportunities to put different kind of personnel groupings, then everybody's got to look around and say, well, someone's losing snaps because this guy's here. I don't want it to be me, right? So then all of a sudden you see like a race to the quarterback on Sunday there.
Most, let's talk about the NFC East, baby. Now the Giants finally lose, but otherwise it's 3 for 4. So I'll give Bill Yates credit for this per Elias Sports. The NFC East is 23-8, win percentage of 742, the highest combined winning percentage for a division through 8 weeks since the merger in 1970. Wow. Who didn't see that coming? I know I did. This was the best division in the history, in the Super Bowl era.
Yeah,
who didn't have that?
I knew the NFC East was going to be better because of the old, axiom that it couldn't be any worse after 3 or 4 years. And obviously a lot of teams that, the Giants had made a significant number of moves in the coaching staff and front office, and then they had a bunch of picks. And I thought Dallas was going to be a very good team. I still think Dallas is the second best team in the NFC. When all
So
is
do
said and
I.
done.
So
When
do
Dak
I.
Prescott is the quarterback.
Yeah.
And Washington's got a really good defense. And I don't know why every year for the last 3 years it's taken them 6 weeks to figure out how to use their good defense, but they have good defensive talent. Now, some of it is a little bit obviously schedule-oriented. I don't know if they're really the best division in the NFC East, but I did note yesterday it's the only division in the NFC that has all 4 teams that are at least 500 or better.
Yeah.
A feat matched only by the AFC East, which is another
It's all
crazy
about East football. You're
yeah,
right.
like
Since
when has the AFC East ever been known for anything other than the Patriots dominating or the Bills last year? So who would have thought that would have been the other division to be all above 500 or all 500 or better?
Let me run this by both you guys. I'm hoping neither one of you saw it because you won't come up with it. I saw this tweet last night. One of the few quarterbacks in the NFL, 4 to be exact, who have a better quarterback rating than Jalen Hurts is Geno Smith, who beat the Giants yesterday. Do you know who Geno Smith said after the game yesterday? After you get a win, you said, we got this one for, you dedicate the win. Geno Smith dedicated the win yesterday after the Seahawks beat the Giants. Did you see who he dedicated it to?
I did. So I'll leave it in Johnny Mac's hands if he can guess.
Johnny Mac, did you see this?
I did not. So I am out of the loop.
Hold on to your seat for this one, Johnny.
Jeff and I will tell you this. He dedicated the win to Ben McAdoo and Jerry
Wow.
Reeves.
All right. Yeah.
For his 1 year as the Giant backup. He replaces Eli Manning, who loses a 210-game consecutive starting streak, and then is immediately back on the bench because the owner called McAdoo into the office and said, what the hell are you doing replacing Geno Smith? Eli Manning with Geno Smith. But he went out of his way to say they believed in him, the former Giant failed head coach and since departed general manager is who Geno Smith thanked yesterday. None of the Giants, none of the regular players, none of his teammates. The 5 years ago guys who gave him a job as a backup.
I'm not a big Ben McAdoo guy. By the way, the Eagles almost hired Ben McAdoo, so be very thank the football gods that didn't come to pass. I believe the story is he turned around at the Molly Pitcher service area. The Giants talked him back. But anyway, Jerry Reese is a guy who I always liked, and I think it took the Giants years and years and years and years to recover from firing Jerry Reese, and they finally seem to have gotten it right with Joe Shane. So I like that. I like that, and they did believe. Hey, who believed in him? So I applaud him for that.
I think
because he's playing very well.
If I were Geno Smith, I think I'd go with Pete Carroll, who gave him the starting job.
Well,
year.
yeah,
he was trying to rub it in against the Giants, though.
That's the way I would look at it.
Yeah, he's trying to.
That was a little nod to the Giants.
He's trying
media,
to spike
though.
the football too, a little bit, probably.
Moons, huh?
Yeah, a little bit. And Geno, hey man, he's playing well. And the Seahawks, nobody had them as a surprise team. But let's talk about the quarterback here, Moshe. I mean, we were talking about him before you came on. Nick Sirianni, I said, he says certain things, and you know this, Jeff, that become trite because he says them so much. Dog mentality, blah, blah, competitive advantage, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
One thing he said about Jalen Hurts, I started tuning out was, I don't know what his ceiling is, but he's going to reach it. Speaking to his football IQ, his work ethic, his just his desire to get better. He was right, man. This kid, he could beat you running the football. He didn't run it at all yesterday. He just beat them throwing the football down the field, as you mentioned, shot plays. He's great with that that go route down the sideline, dropping it in the bucket. Tremendous at it. We know his mobility. But the thing that impresses me most is decision making. He's making the right decision. He's turned the football over twice through 7 games. Twice. And Nick Sirianni blames himself for one. He threw an interception against Minnesota on a bad screen call to Kenny Gainwell and a lot of traffic. And then the other one was the pick six and bad weather against Jacksonville. That's it.
Yeah. And the Gainwell one, I don't know. I mean, I think you can blame Gainwell among the three.
Yeah.
That
And
went
Nick
right
takes
off
the
his
blame,
hands.
but you should blame Kenny. But
Yeah.
either way, it's not Jalen's fault.
He's, even when he was struggling when he took over for Carson Wentz 2 years ago and had to play, and they went 1-4 or in his starts, and going back to last year in the first 6 games when they weren't doing well, he was not one who often put the ball in harm's way. That game against the Giants where he had 3 interceptions was the exception for him, not the rule. And then of course against the Tampa Bay Bucks in the playoffs again, that's one of the best defenses he faced in his career. But for the most part, he's been a good caretaker of the football, and especially when you consider the volume with which he has the ball in his hands, not just as a passer, but also as a runner, the hits that he takes, you get more tired when you're running around like that. So that part of it has not been surprising. I think like you said, the biggest development is that he knows where he wants to go with the ball now. I think he's doing a much better job of understanding what the defense is trying to do to him and the Eagles offense. The Eagles offense helps keep defenses off balance by mixing the RPO with the run and the pass. But there are times like the Minnesota game too, where they ask Jalen to, especially in the first half, to throw the ball to 65 to 70% clip, and you're not running that much, and they're still able to move the chains because he's doing an excellent job of finding his targets. And I think he does a way better job when he does get out of the pocket of keeping his eyes down the field, knowing where he wants to go with the football. He's made tremendous progress there. I mean, I don't know what his ceiling is either, but he seems to be taking a step forward each week to the point where you don't even wonder about him anymore. You just, you expect pretty good play out of the quarterback, if not very good or great play.
And a couple of guys I want to give kudos to on the offense, because Jalen and AJ are going to grab all the headlines. Well, they should, because they were both that great. And even Zach Pascal with a touchdown, kind of surprising when you say the throw it downfield play. Didn't think it was going to be Zach, but sure enough, he got his TD. Again, Dallas Goddard, 6 targets, 6 receptions. He catches everything that goes his way, gets first downs. And, oh, by the way, I caught it not watching game film. It was just that obvious. He had some killer blocks yesterday that sprung big plays. He really is underrated for the fact that he might be as good at blocking. They got a couple of offensive linemen that double as tight end, backup tight ends that are actually blockers. No, he's one of the best receiving tight ends who can block with any tight end in the National Football League. He just leveled a couple of guys in their game yesterday.
Yeah.
Is kind of flying under the radar, but he looks like an NFC Pro Bowl tight end to me.
Yeah, I mean, when everybody's healthy, I think you can make an argument for him as the second most complete tight end in football behind George Kittle. When George Kittle's healthy, he does everything well. He blocks well, he catches well. His catch radius for a tight end is really good. His route running, every George Kittle, when healthy, does everything excellently. He's just very rarely healthy. But Dallas Goedert, right behind. Now, Dallas will occasionally have one of those drops that it's maddening, so AJ Brown had a couple too, where the ball right there, but then he makes a play also like yesterday on 3rd down where he like kind of one hand tips the ball to himself, still catches it, still turns upfield and gets extra yards. I don't think I've seen the guy get tackled on the first contact ever. And he's one of the few tight ends that I think you can run a slow developing tight end screen to and still get him to get skinny through that hole and make extra yards. He's almost like a running back on a tight end screen in that regard.
Yeah. And when you guys watched the Zach Pascal touchdown, it was all Dallas Goedert. Yep. Everybody was all over Dallas Goedert. Zach Pascal was just just scooting down the field. And that's the most impressive part about this offense, because they win a different way every week. You mentioned the shot plays weren't involved, Mosher, for a couple of weeks, then bang, here it is. You mentioned cover 2. Lovie Smith is going to play that certainly on a short week. They'll probably go back to running the football. And, people say, Why is Jalen running for 3 touchdowns and not throwing for 4 touchdowns? Who cares? It's going to be 8-0.
Yeah.
Who cares? That to me is the most impressive part of the Eagles offense, because typically when you have even these really good teams that are 13-3, well, now it's 13-4 or whatever, these really good teams, they do things well. You know what they do well, but those weeks they lose, it's because teams can stop certain aspects. I don't know what, I've been saying this for a while. If I'm a defensive coordinator playing the Eagles, what am I stopping? I mean, what am I trying to stop first? If you're Bill Belichick, the best we've ever seen, I think we can all agree on that, who's kind of famous for taking one player out of the game. Who are you taking out of the game, and why is it going to make you better as a defense?
Yeah, that's a great question. It really is. And I think that different teams have tried different approaches. The Lions tried to blitz the crap out of Jalen Hurts, and then you saw the Vikings try to just sit back in a soft coverage, and then you see Washington kind of mix a little bit of both. I thought if you go back and watch the Jacksonville game, they actually played pretty. I know it was a driving rainstorm, but Mike Caldwell had a really nice game plan. I mean, he really mixed up.
Well, he came from Tampa Bay, so
right.
Yeah.
And then when the Eagles felt like things weren't going great for them because of it, they just said, "Well, we'll just run the ball," and then they just ran the ball. That's their best fallback when things aren't stable for them. They can just simply decide to play some old school football, run the ball, add a few RPOs and quarterback runs, design runs in there, just so that you're not stale with your running game, and then you have an opponent that just has nothing left anymore. You know, they get tired, they don't know what to do. Now they have to play the run and the pass, and it becomes very difficult. The best defense against the Eagles is to have, and they've yet to run into a team that really has done it well, but is to have a ball control offense.
Yeah.
And an offense. Now, you saw the Cowboys, the second Cowboys game, if it means anything, will be interesting. Because the Cowboys philosophically had the right idea. They just got to it too late, which is when the Eagles are in their 5-man fronts, that's when you have to pass on them. You have to kind of work the play action pass if you can, because it's hard with 5 guys up front like that. You got to be able to move the ball on the edges. And then when you get into third down or second down and the Eagles go to a 4-man front, that's actually when you have to run on them, where you have to use your double teams, push them out in the middle. And you saw the Cowboys do that with Pollard and Ezekiel Elliott in the second half pretty well. They put it together. But then you also have to play great defense when the Eagles do have the ball too. So
I am interested with Tennessee and Derrick Henry, because if they can get a lead and they can play from front, and they can just try to run the ball downhill. We talk about the tackling issues.
Right.
That's a game I have an asterisk. I want to see that game. I want to see how it unfolds.
Yep.
But they'll probably get a 2-touchdown lead.
I thought the Colts would also be that type of team, John, until they were under Sam Ehlinger as a quarterback. So now
And oh, by the way, we had a friend of this show, John McMullen, on my CBS show last night, covers the Cowboys for The Athletic. I asked him about with Pollard doing what he did yesterday, if he's going to become the one and Zeke becomes the 1A. He said to a man, they all said no down in Dallas. That is still Zeke's team. The coach says he's got 2 1s. He won't even acknowledge one as a 1A, but they still believe in Dallas. And Jerry was the first to say it. We're only going to go as far as Zeke takes us. Well, they went pretty far yesterday without Zeke in the lineup at all. Pollard was damn good. So you're right. That second Dallas game, they could run the football against them. It could be a competitive game.
No matter how much Zeke declines, when he plays the Eagles, he looks like the Zeke from 5 or 6 years ago. Every single time.
Back to fog against the Eagles. You're right. A couple other NFC teams I want to hit on before we let you roll, Mush. The Rams now in a spot of trouble. Seattle looks like they might be real out west. San Francisco's not only ahead of them in the standing, has 2 wins over them.
Oh, Christian McCaffrey, too. Oh.
Came up huge for the 49ers. Are the Rams dead in the water? And are the Packers dead in the water? We got them on the schedule here in a couple of weeks. Aaron Rodgers seems off kilter. He's throwing teammates under the bus. They made one big play last night.
That's normal, by the way. Yeah. That's normal for Aaron. That's
the Packers aren't normal this year.
No,
normal for the Packers is 12 or 13 wins.
Yes.
They're not getting that, John. This is anything but a normal year for the Green Bay Packers.
I don't think the Rams are out of it, but I would look at San Francisco as the team that I think that will eventually emerge as the winner of that division, and Seattle and LA will be fighting it out for a wild card. There's still so many wild cards. I mean, the Bears are 3-5. The Bears are awful, and they're 3-5. They're in a wild card. Man,
I think the Vikings are awful. To be honest,
the Vikings are awful.
They're 6-1.
Yeah.
I think the Giants are awful. They're 6-2.
Yeah.
I'm abusing the privilege most, but I'll make it up to you. At Jeff Mosher NFL, Inside the Birds. InsideTheBirds.com, the podcast with our buddy Adam Kaplan as well. They do a tremendous job. Saw Andrew DeCecco down at the game. He's a great guy as well. Helps out at Inside the Birds. Trade deadline. I forgot about the trade deadline. Is Howie done? He's got the short week. He can't do much as far as getting people ramped up. But is he done? Is he going to make another move?
It would not surprise me if he made another move, John. I know just through sourcing that he has looked at the available running backs, or the running backs who are kind of perceived to be available around the league. And, everybody knows the names, the Alvin Kamaras and the David Montgomery, Kareem Hunt. I'll never say never on anything, but the Kamara one seems like it would be very difficult.
Well, they're not giving up a first-round pick, bro.
Exactly.
Saints only want their first-round pick back. That's not much.
Sure. And I want $5 million. So that makes sense. The one that seems to stick out to me is Kareem Hunt, because the Browns are they're playing tonight. So it'll be kind of interesting to see if a move is made before that game or if he dresses or not. But the Browns are getting back one of their injured running backs, Jerome Ford. And they gave some guaranteed money to Dearness. What is his name? Dearness Foreman? Dearness Jackson. Yeah. So they're going to have a logjam here. They're going to have 4 running backs. And of course, it doesn't seem like Kareem Hunt is long for the Browns beyond this year. And they're also, the Browns, even though they're kind of in it, they're really, treading. If they lose tonight, they're 2-6. So maybe they're not. So I could see the Browns being motivated to move Kareem Hunt. And, I don't know what it's out there about what they want, but what you want and what you wind up getting usually isn't the same thing. Now, from an Eagle side, even though we know Howie has done homework on these guys, they don't have too many mid-round picks to offer, if any, anymore, right? They have 2 ones, they have a 2, a 3, and then a couple 7s.
7, all the way down to the 7s, yeah.
So I guess it would have to be something fairly creative. But, Howie has looked at the landscape there, and Kareem Hunt is the guy whose name seems to make, from when I talk to people around the league, they feel like that's the marriage that would make the most sense. I just don't know from a draft compensation standpoint how that would work, given what the Eagles have.
See, if I were the general manager, I'd more be looking to add a defensive secondary backup guy than
I agree
a guy
with you.
who go into a rotational piece. But then again, JG doesn't believe in playing backup, so no, if we really want to go there.
But you could kill 2 birds with one stone if you brought in a guy like Kareem Hunt and then moved Boston Scott into your kick return role.
He should be in that role. He should be. He should have started.
Britton Covey's not a kick returner. He's
and by the way,
hold on. Let me just ask you. Do you really believe they don't use Boston Scott because they're risking injury on the kick return, that his massive contribution from the line of scrimmage is something they couldn't afford to put at risk, most?
I don't know what they're thinking on it is. I just know that Britton Covey is not a kickoff returner. And when I see Devontae Smith as a punt returner in a game that you're already pretty in control of, I think, what's the philosophy on that one?
By the way, I'm tilting towards Devontae Smith as the punt returner because I'm watching the London game yesterday. Christian Kirk is returning punts. I was watching the Miami game a couple weeks ago. Tyreek Hill is returning punts. If those guys can return punts, why can't Devontae Smith return punts?
I'm
guys tired of this mentality.
I hear you. I just think that, Tyreek Hill is such a superhuman athlete. I get what you're saying. The injury risk is bad, but he's built like a running back. He's a strong wide receiver. And, Christian Kirk too he's not like 165 pounds. That's my only thing on Devontae Smith is that I don't know. You even watch Britton Covey. He looks like he's getting pile drived every single time he gets tackled.
He does. Poor. I love Britton.
And you know who looked bigger? They showed film of him, Deshaun. I remember when Deshaun first showed up here. He was about 165 pounds and undersized. He's gotten bigger as the years have gone on, and he hadn't lost any speed. It is amazing he can still run like the wind. Don't know that he's going to contribute anything this year, but he can still run. And, yeah, I'm hoping that Mr. Smith is their returner for the more often than going forward we've seen this year. Mosher, we've kept you more than a half an hour. We can't thank you enough for coming on board with us. We will certainly get you up again in a month or so. Thanks for doing this today. We appreciate it greatly.
All right, fellas. Have a great one. You got it.
Jeff Mosher is the best when it comes to stuff like this. He just always enjoy whenever he comes on, and he works hard at getting on with it. He can't do this, can't do that, but he eventually clears some space and some time for us. So we thank him very much. All right, he's John McMullen. I'm Jody McDonald. Another guy who's been great to us as well is going to join us now, shooting less than 20 minutes. Chris Franklin from NJ.com.
Yeah, Chris was playing hurt. He was under the weather yesterday. Still coming on.
Really?
He's playing hurt. Yeah, hopefully he's feeling better.
So he's smart enough not to sit next to you. You were lucky.
Yeah.
In that.
Well, you should know. I spilled coffee yesterday. What a disaster. What a disaster. I'm so embarrassed.
Who'd you get? Tell me you got Groats.
No, I got myself.
Oh.
I got myself. And I was panicked, man. On the phone, on the laptop, everything. I got it off very quickly. So all was well. But, man, I got to get better. And it's a short week, Jody. I don't know how.
Yeah, I always thought you had good hands, McMullen. Maybe not.
I don't.
Maybe I over-evaluated.
I do have good hands. I don't spill anything. I'm disgusted with myself.
He's like Jalen Hurts. He's got this standard that he can't seem to match, but he's going to continue to try. J-Mac, you got your Mac guys here on Birds 365.
Philly sports fans, I'm Tom Giordano from Ponley Hockey Giordano. First and foremost, thank you for watching the Ponley Hockey postgame show. But right now, we're giving away tickets to the World Series. Follow Ponley Hockey on Instagram and check out our posts for your chance to win tickets to all 3 Phillies home games. Go Phillies and go Birds.
Welcome to Ponley Hockey, the largest workers' compensation law firm in Pennsylvania. With over 250 years of combined courtroom experience, we've helped over 100,000 injured and disabled workers obtain benefits, as well as some of the biggest settlements in the state. Even better, Ponley Hockey doesn't charge a dime until you win. If you've been injured at work, give Ponley Hockey a call.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
It's a fall car fest, and Jeff D'Ambrosio, Destination Downingtown, says, yes, you can. Jeff says, yes, you can choose from over 1,000 vehicles in stock with no wait. Yes, you can still get low prices, leases, and big discounts. Yes, you can still get low interest financing. And Jeff always says, yes, you can have a real deal buying experience without the hassle. When the other dealers say, no, you can't, Jeff says, yes, you can. Jeff D'Ambrosio, Destination Downingtown. Nobody treats you better. Jeep Adventure Days.
Philadelphia fans, we're cut from a different cloth. Born into a brotherhood and bonded to our team for life. We believe anything is possible because we've witnessed the impossible. While we may be from different neighborhoods, come Sunday, we are one, and we will be heard. Ponley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
got Mac here, Jody McDonald, John McMullen, talking about a 7-0 football team. This is almost getting monotonous. Once again, the only team in the National Football League that hasn't lost a game this year is the Philadelphia Eagles. And that's been since week 3. We're now at week 8. And the Eagles are the only undefeated team in the National Football League. Another outstanding win yesterday against the Steelers, 35-13, and it truly wasn't that close. It was a dominating effort that they grabbed an early lead and just kept widening it. We could go through it quarter by quarter, possession by possession, play by play, John. And you can pick out the areas where they might have been able to do something slightly better. But this, for me, was their most complete game. Opening deferral to the final gun.
Hey, by the way, Jody, I was watching the replay of one game last night, and one of the announcers, and I apologize for forgetting which one, but they gave it the stats of the coin toss. I thought you'd be interested in this. League-wide, 92% of the time this year, people are deferring.
Analytics again rule the world, which go ahead, you can go down that road. I'll choose not to. I'll keep it.
I'm with you. I think it should be more situational.
Exactly.
Typically, I'm going to defer way more, especially if I'm a good team. I'm going to defer way more than I don't. But I think it's always situational. For a bad team, I'm going to start thinking about, not deferring. I want to take control. I want to play from the lead. Hopefully, if you have confidence in your scripting ability, your openers. For a bad team, I think they should think about it more. Good team, 92% probably.
Right.
But every once in a while, like Buffalo, Kansas City. If I'm playing those two teams and I win the toss, I'm taking the football. I want to shorten the game. I want to give Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen the least amount of opportunity to have the football in their hands. I think it makes sense.
And you could probably look this up. Maybe you know it off the top of your head. Nick Sirianni coached 17 games last year, or 18 counting the playoff game, and 7 games this year. So that's 25 games. Let's say he's won the coin toss half, 12 or 13.
Win a lot. They win a lot of.
So you want to say more than half? So
I don't have the numbers, but
16 or 17.
I'm telling you, every week
he's 16-0. Has he ever won the toss and said, "Yeah, give us the ball"? I don't think so. I think he is just an analytical wonk when it comes to that. The numbers say you must, not should. You must defer and give the other team the ball first, and I think that's just wrong.
I do not think. I believe there's one time where he took the football, but I'm not positive.
Can you please look that up for me?
I'll
give Sirianni credit if that's the case. I think he's
and that's just off the top. Yeah, I mean, I could be completely wrong. I believe I remember one time. I don't even know where to look that up, but I'll try to look it up. I don't, but one thing you said, I do not think it's true. He is not an analytical wonk.
No, I'm talking about this one thing.
Yeah.
I'm talking about on kickoffs. I'm not making a general statement about the way he coaches his football team. I just believe
he definitely
about the kickoff.
Yeah, he definitely wants to defer. And more than analytics, I think it has to do with deference to Bill Belichick, because he's the guy who gets the credit of, you got it. Like, he was the first to come up with it. Hey, if you sandwich the first half and the second half with scores, you're probably going to win. And that's the goal of every team when they're deferring. They want to score at the end of the first half, and they want to take the football and score at the beginning of the second half. And if you do that, you're probably going to be in pretty good shape. So I get it, but I do think there is more avenues to think about other things at times. And the rest of the league is kind of defaulting to, all right, we won the toss, let's defer.
Another guy I want to give props to did so for Goddard last segment when we had Mosher on. Yeah, Miles had an under the radar good game yesterday. And I'll give credit, number one, to the play calling, number two, to the blocking, because there are some big holes. But it all starts with Miles and his abilities and capabilities. Hitting the hole, going upfield immediately, not doing any dancing, driving when he gets to the point of contact to make sure he gets the extra yard or two. He had a damn good game. I know when A.J. Brown does what he does and makes that unbelievable athletic play the first time, and then the two great Hurts passes, just dropping it in the bucket to him, they're going to grab all the attention. Miles had a damn good game yesterday, J-Mac.
Yeah, well, second half, they didn't run the ball at all in the first half, but they didn't have to. And then all of a sudden, Miles is just a good player. He's not great. I've said it since the start of the season. And we talked about the trade deadline. Everybody's talking about running backs. I do get the feeling that Howie wants to improve at running back, but I don't necessarily think it has much to do with Miles Sanders. I think it has more to do with Kenny Gainwell and Boston Scott. He wants two running backs that he can count on, and I don't think he believes he has two. I believe he has one. And, would you like him to be a better receiver? Sure. Would you like him to be a better pass protector? Sure. But when it comes to running the football, he's good. He's a good player. And he's having a good season.
Do you think they need another running back? Or is it
but
overkill? Is it Howie being Howie that because it's there, we have to get something done?
If you ask me what could they use most, I would say third safety first. I would say running back probably second, or backup tight end seconds. You could argue. But did they need it? No, probably not. But look, if Miles gets hurt tomorrow, I think they're limited. I don't think Kenny Gainwell has played well this season. I don't think he played well over the summer. I don't think he took the step forward that they were hoping. Now, Boston, every time they put him in there, he seems to produce. But I think he's the kind of guy who, if he has to play over an extended period of time, it's going to start to affect you more and more. So, I think they could use more depth at running back, but I don't think they need it. I don't think they need anything. I don't think they needed Robert Quinn. I said it pretty consistently, who played 20 snaps, by the way, and didn't show me much. I have to watch again, but I don't think they needed him. They were 6-0 before that trade. They're 7-0 before, if they make a trade this week. I don't think they need anything, but if you were to ask me which positions would I like a little bit more depth, running back would be one of those positions.
And sorry, I know I'm going to incur the wrath of my partner here because I'm going to question the defensive coordinator. I question
him all the time.
I would have gotten the two cornerbacks off the field because
I said that. Zach, well, he couldn't, as Mosher pointed out. I was more surprised, even more than Nakobe Dean. I was more surprised that Zach McPherson didn't play at all. I thought, Slay would be out of there. Now, they lost Josiah Scott in the game to an injury, and Josh Jobe was out because he's got a shoulder issue. So somebody had to play, but I would have gotten Slay out of there. Yeah, I'm very surprised Zach McPherson.
Because you put tight end and running back both ahead of backup corner. No, my two biggest, if you have to make a deal, it falls into your lap. It's value and valuations both. Backup safety 1, backup corner 2. Because I'm sorry, I just haven't seen enough of Zach Mack to go, all right, if Bradbury goes down, it'll be a drop-off, but it won't be a death knell because Zach Mack is reasonably capable of playing quarterback. I don't know that.
Fair.
He doesn't get on the field.
That's fair. Yeah, you can add corner in as well, outside corner especially. Um, yeah, I would have no problem with that. If you ask me who's the best player, uh, Zach McPherson, Kayvon Wallace, Jack Stoll, Nakobe Dean. I would say who's the best player right now? I would say Nakobe has the biggest upside, obviously. But who's the best player?
We know nothing about Nakobe Dean. It's been 7 weeks since we even saw him on anything other than special
But
teams.
if you ask me which of those four is the best and most capable of coming in, I would say Zach McPherson. Not that it's great, but I would lean towards Zach McPherson.
Right. And how many snaps has he played from scrimmage this year?
I would have to look it up. He played a decent amount last year, but
because Slay got hurt the one game.
No,
so he actually
Slay got hurt in 3 games.
Well, one he missed more than he got hurt in the first half, and
he had a couple concussions, and but I'll look it up real quick. Yeah, I mean, like again, I'm agreeing with you, but I would say of those 4 players, because that's what we're talking about, those positions and the top backup, I wouldn't be comfortable with any of them. But he would be the best of the lot, is how I would describe it. He's played 73 this year, which is a little bit more than I expected.
It's because of the Slay injuries. Otherwise, JG wouldn't have put him in there either, because he sticks with his starters. We determined that yesterday in a blowout over the Steelers. He's John McMullen. I'm Jody McDowell. We're your Mac Birds 365 guys. Count them, 7-0 Philadelphia Eagles right now. We're talking about trying to emphasize everything that's right about being undefeated at this time. But yeah, from time to time we do throw a question out there, nitpicking type question. We'll do some of that with our next guest, Chris Franklin, NJ Duckham. Where's Franklin going to be? Inside, outside?
That's a good question. I mean,
will we be able to hear the birds? Will we get the birds in the background, Johnny Mac?
No, he's a little under the weather. It was a little chilly this morning. I'm guessing he's going to be inside with a cup of tea. That's what I'm guessing.
Chris, keep the tea away from McMullen. He's got bad hair.
I might spill that.
He could spill it all over you. You don't want to do that to yourself.
You don't know how. I can't get over it, Jody. It's bothering me.
That is funny. All right, McMullen and McDonald coming back. Chris Franklin up next here on Birds 365.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
Since 1977 at Rafferty Subaru, we have always been about our customers and the community. Early on, a safe and durable option, we've evolved to become the best overall brand according to Kelley Blue Book. Over the last 14 years, we've donated thousands of dollars through the Subaru Share the Love event and found homes for hundreds of pets. The Rafferty family is proud of our 45 years in business. This month, celebrate our anniversary with special financing on select models. Visit us and see why.
The greatest fans on earth. It's a bold statement, but would you expect anything less from Philadelphia? 58 years of heartache creates a toughness, a grit, a resolve not found in most. Sure, our prayers were answered, but now that we've had a taste, we're looking for more. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Welcome to Pondley Hockey. We've helped over 100,000 injured and disabled workers obtain benefits, as well as some of the biggest settlements in the state. If you've been injured at work, give Pond Lehocky a call.
Philly sports fans, I'm Tom Giordano from Pond Lehocky Giordano. First and foremost, thank you for watching the Pond Lehocky postgame show. But right now, we're giving away tickets to the World Series. Follow Pond Lehocky on Instagram and check out our posts for your chance to win tickets to all 3 Phillies home games. Go Phillies and go Birds.
Appreciate you streaming on in here on Birds 365. Not surprising, we've got a bunch of people streamed in with us today because we're talking about the 7-0 Birds. If you like the Eagles, feel free to like McMullen and McDonald. Hit that like button. Like, share, and subscribe to us here on Birds 365. And like, share, and subscribe to Chris Franklin, who looks like, again, are you outdoors or you got the screened-in porch going?
Oh, screened-in porch. It's close as I'm going right now, well, yeah.
Chilly out. Playing hurt too, Chris Franklin. So we thank you for coming on. Hope you're feeling better. I hope you're feeling as good as the Eagles, but that's probably not possible at this stage.
Well, I think I'm looking at the injury report. I think it'll be day to day. I should be available for this upcoming night. And
short week, man. Short week.
Yeah, man. Words wise, always be leery about the cheesesteak egg rolls on a food truck. I'll just leave it at that.
Oh, we're going food poisoning. All right.
Oh, God.
Well, that's better,
All right. I'm gonna start you with a hypothetical question because I love them. They're sports talk staples. Sometimes they're not even close to being based in reality, but who the hell cares? 8 weeks ago, before the season started, the Eagles are getting ready for their first game. If you were to have projected what you thought a contract extension for Jalen Hurts would have looked like, and now 8 weeks later, after starting 7-0 and being a top 5 quarterback in the National Football League, how much of a difference is there in dollars and cents? How high has I gotten for Jalen Hurts on his next contract with the Philadelphia Eagles?
If you would have asked me during training camp, I would have thought maybe like the range of 36, 37. Now you're looking around 43 to 45 just by what he's been showing so far and what the future projection is with this offense because they're all still young and he's going to put up numbers if these guys continue to gel and get chemistry and stay together, especially his receiving core. Those numbers are going to continually go up. So you're looking out, we're probably saying like 4 or 5 years from now, 45 million, that's all they got him for. And then now I think he's on that type of projection.
Yeah. When you talk about his development, Chris, and he mentioned this a little bit after the game, we all knew he had the skills from a mobility standpoint. And I think a lot of people said, well, if he could develop into a pocket passer, and you see some of those shot throws to A.J. Brown down the field in the bucket, he's done an impressive job with that. But to me, the most impressive part of it all is the decision making. I mean, he's making the right decisions. And I think people forget he's a third-year quarterback. It's not a guy who's got a ton of experience. He's really advanced when it comes to – I saw some good things from Kenny Pickett yesterday, believe it or not. I said, well, you know what? If he can get some experience – but, man, I mean, young quarterbacks just are I don't know. I don't want to use the term dumb, but they make some dumb decisions. He 2 turnovers through the whole season. It seems like he always makes the right decision. That, to me, has been the most impressive part of his advancement as a player.
It's that calmness that he's been displaying because I think a lot of times when you see guys 340 pounds coming at you, like, well, I don't know, he's worried about bleep. And again, you start doing the scramble drills. Like, I'm not getting hit by that guy. You see guys, rookie, especially younger quarterbacks, throwing it up there. And I think that's the one key thing. I think that when it comes to his demeanor, that's the biggest thing I think that separates him from some of the other guys. So guys, when they're in front of the cameras and you look in front and talking to us, somebody like, oh no, I don't. It doesn't phase you. Meanwhile, you go back and you look back and like, oh my goodness, it's going to happen. Oh my God, I don't know which way it's going to come. But it seems like what Hurts just has that demeanor that helps him. I think when he sees pressure like that, he just uses it. It also helps that he has the legs to be able to escape and scramble that too. But overall, I think when you look at the way, the familiarity he has with this offense and that demeanor, I think you've seen the results you're getting right now.
And he didn't even have to do that yesterday. He had one designated run and one other one where he turned the ball upfield, made a couple of yards. They didn't even need his running aspect of his strength, his game, in his bag of tricks yesterday. I know the Eagles were very good. Steelers were pretty damn bad. What the hell has happened to the Steelers? They've come apart pretty quickly. I know John was just talking about rookie quarterback as compared to a veteran guy like Ben Roethlisberger, but I didn't think Ben was very good last year. How bad was that defense yesterday? I know the Eagles picked it apart. Don't want to shortchange the Eagle offense, but Steelers defense gave Jalen no pressure in the backfield.
Well, I think you see when it comes to Watt not being on the field, the impact that he has on that defense. I also think that the one thing, if I'm the Steelers looking right now, they need cornerbacks. I think that's the only thing that's holding back the Steelers defense. When you don't have two things. When Watt comes back to the field, I think they'll be okay. They'll be average just because of the pressure he does. But I think they look at the cornerback position for them. I mean, it struggles. Witherspoon just basically
Yeah, I was
disappointed.
disappointed.
People saying, "Well, he had the hamstring." Well, it's not good.
I was disappointed in the way Minka Fitzpatrick played because I knew they didn't have much at corner, but I said, "Well, Minka's a good player. He'll settle things down." He's not playing well either. So when your good players aren't playing well, you got an issue. But yeah, you lose TJ Watt. I mean, they came into that game. Obviously, TJ, I think he had 22 and a half sacks last season, defensive player of the year. They had 5 sacks in 6 games. I think it was a little disappointing that Pittsburgh got 3 sacks because they haven't been getting any pressure. But Jalen took the credit for that, the blame for that. Actually, he held on to the football too long. So that's another thing you love about Jalen Hurts is his accountability. And then you see it trickle down to the rest of the roster. Well, if the quarterback is doing this, I think it really shows up in the rest of the team. And I think the best evidence to that, Chris, A.J. Brown, the first player to talk to us on the podium, and he didn't want to talk about his good plays. He wanted to talk about the stuff he left on the field, the drop, and when he got caught from behind. It's a little thing, but I think it's a really a thing that really shows you why the Eagles are 7-0.
Yeah, they want to become complacent because when you start looking at it, I mean, you're wrong. Maybe that's why I'm not. I probably look at it on 7-0 like, you know what, I feel good. You know, they start coasting, and they're not being complacent. They want to make sure that they continue to stretch, and it's the mentality aspect. I think a lot of that is, and you got to look at football character when you're scouting a lot of these guys, and I think that's when you start to give a little front office a little bit credit on that one too. And I think also it's the coaching staff. I think that's that link beforehand because you can have all the character guys, but you get around with some other guys like, oh, okay, well they do this and this, but I think the coaching staff, especially Nick Sirianni, with that keeping them focused, has done a good job.
Want to flip it over to the defense? Another big sack game for the Eagles, and again, Gannon pushed the right buttons. Brought the blitz, didn't bring it every single time, brought it at the appropriate time. TJ Gardner off the corner. They got there 5 times yesterday. They're doing the job. But up until they went out, they were doing it with Jordan Davis. High ankle sprain. You guys will get more details today. He's going to miss games. We don't know how. He's certainly going to miss Thursday night, short week. How much of him coming out of the lineup hurts Eagles defense, Chris?
I think it changes a lot because when you saw how much they like to use that 5-man line, especially with him in there, and you started to see him sprinkle a little bit more. You started seeing him ratcheting up a little bit more. He was on with the 4-man group as well too. So you started to see that transition going to the more he can take on 2 blockers and open up those scraping and shuffle lanes for the linebackers to get home on a run game. I think that's huge. And I think overall, when you look at his development, overall, he's going to miss at least 4 weeks. I mean, for them, I thought initially when he got it, I thought it was going to be worse because I thought it was like, oh, when he broke his foot or his Frank or something like that, and he's gone. So I think when you look overall, you're going to miss him in the run game, and it hurts. I think when it comes to that rotational depth too. So it's going to put a lot of Hargrave and Cox.
Yeah, and if you go back to last season, one of the reasons Jordan Davis is here is because Fletcher is not a 0 or 1 technique. J-Bond is not. So they don't have a player like Jordan Davis. I guess you can try Marlon Tuipulotu. This could be a big deal. He doesn't play a lot, but there's sort of a domino to what, and JG's talked about this a lot. Like Jody's talking about the sacks. Well, the way you get to the sacks, the way you get to the blitzing is making it 2nd and 10 or 3rd and 11. And Jordan Davis is a big part of that. He might only be out there for one play. But if you stop the run, now if you're in a bunch of 2nd and shorts, 3rd and shorts, and an offense is on schedule, so to speak, that's what the Eagles struggled with last year. Am I being alarmist?
No, because I think when you look at Marlon Tuipulotu, when he was in there, when it came to those bigger, those big man fronts, he got pushed off the ball too much. He continually got sucked in when it comes there for offensive line, got in there, and they were running, having their way with it. Especially when it came, when you look at that second team unit, the beta unit, whatever they call it, when it comes to the second rush line, the teams always seem to have success when it came to running the ball because you didn't have Jordan Davis in there. He's running with the one. So I think it's a big. Over time, I think it's going to be a bigger loss. And then you hope you have when you see teams like the Titans, where you have Derrick Henry come back. You hope you have him back by then because he's a guy space eater. You can use him for that. So over time, I think you're going to see how important he was, even though he was a rookie.
All right, I'm going to put both you guys to the test here. Eagles lost one of their motivating factors yesterday when the Giants lost. So they now have a 2-game cushion in the division, 2.5 over Dallas, and Dallas is actually in second place because they got the head-to-head win with the Cowboys. The Texans are the Texans. I know it's a road game, but at least the Steelers are the Steelers, and they've got some history, and you can talk about championships and like. What about the Texans scares anybody? What is Nick Sirianni going to use as motivation with this team this week? I know they're as good as they are, and I said earlier they throw their helmets out on the field. They should be able to beat the Texans. What card does Nick play as far as motivation goes this week?
That's a good question. I think it's going to be one of the ones you least expected, because how many times have we seen a lot of these teams go on these runs, or even look at yesterday? I think everything I thought in some of those games that were going on, you never know what this outcome's going to be. I think he's going to be you can't undermine your. That's the only thing I can think of, because I look at that, I'm like, Davis Mills, nah. You look across the board, Nico Collins, no. So I think it's going to be one of the things the Eagles can't beat themselves, and also having I know they have to travel on a short week. That's a big thing too. I mean, we were in the locker room yesterday. We saw all the massage tables and the bikes and everything else. They
were right at it after the game.
Yeah, it's a travel. You got a travel day too, so you lose an extra day. You get to travel on Wednesday. You go on Thursday. That's a lot of tough factors to go in. But it's
what will they do without walkthrough Wednesday? They're going to be flying Wednesday. No walkthrough Wednesday. It's going to throw them off schedule.
Maybe do a walkthrough on the plane. Do a little.
Do the Russell Wilson and just run it.
The walkthrough on the plane. I think what Jody said is the plan. Just throw your helmets out there. That should be able to get it.
It'd probably be a better running game that the Texans have, but that's a whole other thing. But, yeah.
The Thursday games are basically very simple game plans because nobody has time to practice. It is better to be at home than on the road. This is a pretty long trip for a Thursday night game, to be honest. And if it were any kind of reputable foe, I would be very, very concerned about this spot going that far in a short week. But man, Houston just has nothing.
And there's another factor you got to figure in too, because you know the coach, Sirianni Saikin probably had a little say, but they were pretty much focused on this game against the Steelers. So you're relying a lot on your quality control coaches and your offensive assistants to basically come up with a game plan for this, and you're hoping that what they saw to advance it is good enough to go ahead and beat it. So it's there's so many factors going. I don't think it's going to be cake. I think it's going to be a little bit closer than what people think it is. I don't think it's going to be. Wow, I think when we come back here, you go look like wow, they won 23-20 against the Texans now, but I think Texas is going to have a little fight to them. I think the Eagles might be a little worn down, given they're a little over team at some positions.
Yeah, as a real quick, as a little follow up. Sorry, Jody. Nick would never admit this, but I want to throw it at you. You mentioned the quality control coaches, so they had the bye week, and those guys were doing a lot of work. You think the Eagles hate to admit they look ahead even a day, never mind a week. But do you think they kind of double game planned Pittsburgh and Houston because they're not very good, to be honest? And maybe you took a little advantage of the schedule and said, you know what? Hey, quality control coach number one, why don't you see what Houston's doing a little bit and start on that? You think maybe they went about it that way because they had some extra time?
I remember talking to an NFL coach, I think during the combine, and they were saying like when it comes to these short games, they're doing like 2-3 weeks ahead in advance. Like they'll have their base assessments, what they're doing, what they want to have, and then they'll give it to a thing like, okay, to give it to quality controls, hey, check to see if this is right, and then they come back that way too. Now, granted, that was for that one team when it came there, so I could see them doing something like that where you may have had Nick going, hey, we got this, even though they're bye week, hey, we got the Texans coming up this short week. I want you to look at this package, see what it has, and give me an overall good assessment. This is where I think remember last year, I think it was or year before, Jim Bob Cooter. This is where we discussed where Jim Bob Cooter pretty much came up with that game plan on the short week for Thursday. I forget who the opponent was. So I don't know if it's Patullo this week. I don't know if it's strictly on the quality assistant coach, the quality control coaches, but it's a big thing. You start that's your coaching depth too.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Two things I want to get in here, one of which I needed to look up. Eagles, Texans, early line for Thursday game. Eagles minus 13. They're almost 13. A 2-touchdown favorite on the road. That doesn't happen. You'll be a 2-touchdown favorite at home. Not usually on the road. The Eagles are a 13-point choice early line against the Texans. And speaking of Jim Bob Cooter and guys showing up at camp, I know they've got a bunch of regular season games to play and then playoff games and maybe a game in Arizona before we ever get back to camp. Do you think there's a chance that Frank Reich could be one of those guest coaches in camp this season? Because I'm telling you what, that Indianapolis Colts team doesn't look like a playoff team to me. And they've got an impetuous owner. You think Frank Reich is going to be available to lend a helping hand in Eagle camp next year?
See, part of me really thinks he's going to be back. I don't know what part of me. Maybe it's the part that still gets an egg roll part in my brain or whatever it is. But part of me thinks he's still saying he's in Indianapolis. I think he getting dealt with a bad hand. I know. Well, he's been given a bad quarterback besides Wentz, who he basically picked and said, "Oh no, he vouched for where I was bad." But when it sounds like Irsay had told him to put Erlinger instead of Matt Ryan because of financial reasons, and you got guys getting banged up. Your best player, Jonathan Taylor, keeps getting hurt. Part of me wants to say that one. I think they're going to need a veteran guy eventually because I think this coaching staff is going to get rated after this season. I think you're going to need 2 coordinators. You're going to need. I think Patullo may go. I think you may see other guys like Brian Johnson. Maybe he gets a shot at college or becomes an offensive coordinator somewhere else. So I think this coaching staff is going to get rated big time. So.
That's true.
Frank might be around for 1 year. If I had to guess right now, ask me about week 14, 15, you'd be like, oh, goodness, what do I say in this one? But I think Frank might, for now, I think Frank has maybe 1 more year after this. Okay. Maybe.
NFL, somebody gave Frank a vote of confidence. I don't know if it was just an NFL.com report or Jim Irsay actually said something, but he got the dreaded vote of confidence. So we'll see how that shakes out. Chris Ballard as well, who's very highly regarded. I know, Chris, that Nick Sirianni actually gets upset when you talk about the problems Indianapolis has had at quarterback, mainly because of Phillip Rivers. And he, he'll joke that, Phillip Rivers got 2 people jobs in this league, and everybody thinks, but the problem is he retired, Phillip Rivers, but he played very well. The problem with the Colts is they got to get a young quarterback and go through the, you're going to go through some growing pains like Pittsburgh's doing with Kenny Pickett. Maybe it works out, maybe it doesn't, but you can't bring in some 38-year-old guy who's going to go coach high school football the next year. That's not going to be sustainable.
Why do I have a feeling I could see him as a quarterback's coach? Because he's got his feet wet doing a head coaching job down there. I want to say like Alabama, Mississippi, one of those southern states down there. Why do I have a feeling like that one?
Yesterday.
He's got. I think next year. Who knows? That's hot. But I don't know what this infatuation is with the young coaches. I don't know if anybody wants to find. Oh, I want to find the guy who's the next McVay and everything else. There's a lot of quality guys that are out there right now. I think that you still learn from Jim Caldwell for the life of me. I don't know why he doesn't have a job. I think he's a really good guy. I would love to see him as an offensive coordinator candidate. I think he's got a lot of stuff when it comes to developing quarterbacks, when it comes to scheming, when it comes to working along with that. So I think he would be a good option. But you got a lot of veteran guys I wouldn't mind seeing come in here too. But this infatuation with I gotta find a 31-year-old guy who hasn't really experienced life because most of the time they're being inside the coaching things. I think you need a couple of veterans on that staff.
Which, by the way, Sean McVay, offensive genius. I'm not seeing it this year. All of a sudden, he's not the brightest bulb on Broadway anymore. So these guys can shine bright for a period of time, then all of a sudden they come back.
Yeah, everybody gets caught up to Jim is a really good coach, but I think he's the opposite end of the spectrum. I think he's hurt by his age on the other end. I don't know how old he is now, but he's over 65. So, people look at it. They want somebody who's going to be there for 20 years, even though nobody's ever there for 20 years. Well, Belichick, Andy Reid, they're all like, we want to have this guy and play. It just doesn't work that way. So, I don't know much, but it's worked for the Eagles. Look, I said, when the Eagles put together this coaching staff, I wasn't the only one. I said, where's the experience? These guys have never done anything, but it's worked. And now they're the staff. And, if this keeps going, Shane Steichen's not going to be here next year. And Jonathan Gannon's not going to be here next year. Simple as that.
No,
if this
I'm
keeps
telling
going
you,
the way it's going.
Plug Frank right in. And I like Frank. I know you guys know Frank better. I haven't covered the team. Where is he? I do not think he's surviving Indianapolis. I think that when the Eagles put the beat down on the Colts, and I think they're going to, that could be the final straw that punches Frank's ticket back here to Philadelphia.
Well, the beauty of Nick Sirianni, he's got this all. I mean, if Shane gets a job,
he will.
Kevin Patullo is going to be the offensive coordinator. I mean, I guarantee that right now. Defensively, I don't know. That's a little bit different because obviously that's not his purview. Would they just elevate Denard Wilson? Maybe. They might go that route. I would think they're more likely to go that route than go outside the building. Wouldn't you, Chris?
Well, I think it's going to be it may, who knows, it might be an either or. Like if you take Kevin Patullo, maybe Shane takes Brian Johnson if you think Brian Johnson's going in the future, or maybe if Nick goes, hey, you know what, you can take Patullo, I'll use Brian Johnson. I think it's going to be one of those either or things with them because I think Johnson's starting to get a little bit of a push now.
Anymore. I know Sean McVay. Sean McVay lost. Obviously, Kevin O'Connell was doing a good job. I don't know how, but he was allowed to take, I think, one coach, and he took Wes Phillips. I don't think he was allowed to take anybody else. So they kind of clamp down on those things now. I don't think Nick would be allowing Shane to take like any high profile guys. Now with Brian Johnson, you can't block him, right? If he's going offensive coordinator job, and you're not going to give it to him here, there's nothing you can do. But yeah, I mean, they're going to lose a lot of coaches if things keep going this way, and that's going to be maybe the biggest test for Nick Sirianni, because we saw it with Andy Reid. Andy Reid had one of the best coaching staffs ever in the history of football. I don't know how many head coaches came off his first staff here, but it was astonishing. I'd have to look it up. It's
And
6
still
or
coaching
7.
too. Look at Harbaugh.
Yeah.
Harbaugh's coaching, head coach. You got Rivera's a head coach. You should they were just embarrassment of riches on that. And you look how many guys still defense. Sean McDermott. You got so many guys that come at staff. That's the only thing to test that depth. And I wonder if that's why you're getting some of these guys, these younger assistants, enough time right now to help to prepare them, because you may be leaning on them next year. It's crazy.
Give Andy credit, and I remember handling that story on the air on WIP, that when he got the job, how do you hire this guy? He had binders on top of binders of how he would build his coaching staff before he ever got the job. He was ready to build that coaching staff. So give credit where credit is due. All right, last one for me, Chris. My partner on CBS asked me this yesterday. When can we officially start to talk about not just the fact that the Eagles are 17-0, but there's an eventual number at the back end that if they go undefeated and equal and surpass what the Dolphins did last team to go undefeated, the biggest season in the history of the National Football League. When is it realistic? When is it fair to start that conversation? I said yesterday, always previous to me, it had been you need to hit double digits. You got to get to 10-0 before I'm going to truly sink my teeth into that conversation. Some people say the halfway mark, which now is 9 because they got the goofy 17 games, not an even number. When is it fair to actually, because if we open up these floodgates, it could get nuts around here in Philadelphia, that we start talking about, this team could go all year without losing a game.
I think for me personally, I think you do it after the Titans game, because I think that's when you start to go through. In all honesty, that's when you start to look at it, because then you start looking at when you have to play the Giants again and then the Cowboys. So I think once you get towards the beginning of that stretch, where you're thinking like, okay, they beat the Titans team, because I used to think it was going to be the Packers, but we've seen the way they've been playing lately, and they don't strike fear anymore. All of a sudden, when you look at the schedule beforehand, you're like, oh, that's like the scheduled losses. I've had that as a scheduled loss. Like, well, now that's winnable. And Titans you just don't know because of the run game and stuff like that. So I think when you start to look at that Giants game, the way the Giants are playing right now, I want to move it to the Giants game, because if they beat the Giants the first time, which they should get rid of the roster, but Giants are hanging around, then that's where I think you really start to really look like, okay, this team actually might legit go undefeated if they don't rest their guys too. Like, if they play that balance of resting the guys versus
you got to
the
talk
playoffs.
about rest too. Yeah, how would Nick handle that? That's a good point. At C Franklin News, read Chris and NJ.com. I think that was the spirit of Nick Sirianni squawking at you, saying, "Don't look ahead. Don't look ahead. Don't talk about perfect season.
See,
Win the day."
Yeah, that bird mentality.
Completely different bird translator. I thought they were saying now. You can start talking about 20-0 now. That's what I heard the bird say. McMullen heard something else.
I like that bird mentality. And by the way, here it is: Brad Childress, David Culley, Pat Shermer, Ron Rivera, Leslie Frazier, Steve Spagnuolo, John Harbaugh, Sean McDermott, all became head coaches from Andy's first staff. Rod Dodhauer was here as the offensive coordinator. He was a head coach before that.
Previously, right.
Yeah, and Jim Johnson obviously never wanted to become a head coach, but probably could have become a head coach. What an amazing coaching staff.
What about that Juan Castillo defensive coordinator? Was that going to set him up to become a head coach too?
Yeah, Juan was there as well.
Good offensive coach.
That didn't work out well, but Juan was a very good offensive line coach.
He was very good. Between look at the team and the offensive line coaches, you have him, then Howard Mudd, then Stoutland. That's a heck of a run they had. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, Stoutland flying under the radar this week because
he's the Jim Johnson of this staff.
Yep, he'll work it out. Okay,
didn't have to bring up Stoutland U this week because it was all about the passing game and Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown. Chris Franklin, tell the birds we said thank you for contributing to today's show.
They said thanks. Oh, now they want to get quiet. Next.
And we always say thank you to you, Bud, when you come on. We'll talk to you again next week. Thanks, pal.
Thank you, guys. Have a good one now.
Chris Franklin, we got to figure out where we're going to squeeze him in next week because he's kind of become.
He's going to be traveling.
On
I'm
Friday,
traveling
so
too. Yeah, it's going to be a
you
tough
might
week.
have to.
It's a tough week for all of us. Yeah.
Yes, we're going to have to figure out the schedule here because Johnny Mac's going to miss a couple of shows. Find out if we've got anybody filling in for him. The one guest we do have booked in is going to be for Wednesday is John McMullen. Formerly of the Gazette, now for the Mattress Mac sports website down there. Gallery, I think the name of it is. Also.
By the way, did Mattress Mac put a big bet on the series?
Oh, yeah. He's all over.
So he hasn't been doing well, so that should be a good sign for the Phillies.
He never does badly, though, because he always hedges his bet. He does. He wagers a lot, but he wagers smart so that he's not completely exposed. But he's a Houston guy, so yeah, he's got a lot of money on Houston on the baseball side. I'm guessing Mattress Mac does.
Nah, he's not betting. He's not betting. Well, 13's a big number. Maybe he's got something. I don't know.
Good.
That's a very big number on the road and on a short week. Man, if that doesn't tell you the Eagles are good, nothing will.
John McMullen's going to join us on Wednesday from Houston. A good friend of the show. He's been on with us before. And I'm going to run this by John because he said it here on Birds 365, said it when I have my other shows. The Texans believe in Davis Mills. Last year I had him on a bunch because of the whole Deshaun Watson thing. Where are they going to go without Deshaun? And he can, every time I had him on, well, they really like Davis Mills. The coaching staff believes in the organization believes in Davis Mills. I caught a little of that game yesterday when he was over. Davis Mills can't play quarterback in the league. He's not an NFL starting quarterback.
I got to be honest with you. I've not seen any Davis Mills this year. I don't know how he's doing. I got to delve into it.
Go ahead. It won't be pretty because the Texans are not a good football team.
Can't be much worse than Kenny Pickett. And I saw some signs from Kenny Pickett, but not yesterday.
And John used to quote the numbers to me that the second half of the season, his numbers, quarterback ranking, a couple analytics were top 10 in the National Football League. Because they're always playing against a prevent defense. They're always down 3 touchdowns.
That plays into it.
Go ahead. Throw anything you want underneath. Get your
completion
percentage up
closed circuit to our buddy Jeff Kerr. Good morning, NFC East. That's why I'm not a numbers guy in football. Nobody looks at the context of these big numbers. A lot of times it's what you just said. You're down 3 touchdowns. People are saying, all right, keep them in bounds, all that kind of stuff. And all of a sudden you get these inflated numbers and very small sample size in football. So you got to be careful.
You know who got an by the way touchdown yesterday? Mr. Rogers. Really didn't have any impact on the outcome of the game unless you were betting, cut it to 10 and it was 10.5. Yeah. But the Bills were sitting back.
I wonder if the Bills.
When was the last time Aaron Rodgers got an by the way touchdown?
Yeah. I wonder if the Bills got Bills fans give them what for not putting the hammer down. What was the score of that game at halftime? It was over at halftime, wasn't it?
They kicked a field goal late. I think it was 24-7. Yeah.
Yeah. And they did nothing in the second half. I wonder if they got,
got to play the full 60 minutes. That's right. Yeah. John McMullen, Jody McDowell. We got come back, put a ball on the show. We're almost out of time on Birds 365.
Philly sports fans, I'm Tom Giordano from Ponley Hockey Giordano. First and foremost, thank you for watching the Ponley Hockey postgame show. But right now, we're giving away tickets to the World Series. Follow Ponley Hockey on Instagram and check out our posts for your chance to win tickets to all 3 Phillies home games. Go Phillies and go Birds.
Welcome to Ponley Hockey, the largest workers' compensation law firm in Pennsylvania. With over 250 years of combined courtroom experience, we've helped over 100,000 injured and disabled workers obtain benefits, as well as some of the biggest settlements in the state. Even better, Ponley Hockey doesn't charge a dime until you win. If you've been injured at work, give Ponley Hockey a call.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
It's a fall car fest, and Jeff D'Ambrosio, Destination Downingtown, says, yes, you can. Jeff says, yes, you can choose from over 1,000 vehicles in stock with no wait. Yes, you can still get low prices, leases, and big discounts. Yes, you can still get low interest financing. And Jeff always says, yes, you can have a real deal buying experience without the hassle. When the other dealers say, no, you can't, Jeff says, yes, you can. Jeff D'Ambrosio, Destination Downingtown. Nobody treats you better. Jeep Adventure Days.
Philadelphia fans were cut from a different cloth. Born into a brotherhood and bonded to our team for life. We believe anything is possible because we've witnessed the impossible. While we may be from different neighborhoods, come Sunday, we are one and we will be heard. Pondley Hockey, official partner of the Philadelphia Eagles.
Coming up next with his football notebook. I evoked the name of Ben McAdoo earlier in the show because
that's a good one.
I was shocked by it. And
isn't he the coordinator in Carolina now? I believe so. So he's responsible for PJ Walker's big Hail Mary. I give him all the credit for that.
He's also responsible for the stupid penalty that DJ Moore took when he took his helmet off. No, I don't give him credit for either of the two.
I'm joking, man.
And you correctly said the Eagles dodged a bullet there. You know what and that was 7 years ago before Dougie P got the job and eventually took the Eagles to the Super Bowl. The more recent dodging of the bullet, Josh McDaniels. Did you see Devontae Adams' numbers yesterday?
I saw they got shut out.
Devontae Adams, 1 catch for 2 yards, 1 rush for -1 yard. He had 1 total yard of offense yesterday. Devontae Adams. The Eagles went out and got A.J. Brown. The Raiders went out and got Devontae Adams. Who's gotten the better of that one? And Josh McDaniels was John's told the story too many times here. How close was he to becoming the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles?
How we recommended him. And Jeffrey, I always give Jeffrey credit. He knew those two would butt heads eventually, and that's what it was about. And he went in a different direction, kept interviewing people. But you go back, you mentioned Ben McAdoo. They wanted to hire Adam Gase before they wanted to hire Ben McAdoo. So they dodged a bunch of bullets in 2016.
I love the fact that you used butthead and Josh McDaniels in the same sentence because I think it's actually quite fitting. All right, listen, you're out of here both Wednesday and Friday this week. You're going to be traveling on both days?
Yeah, Wednesday morning, Friday morning. So I will be incognito. Hopefully Thursday we're at the mercy of hotel Wi-Fi. So hopefully that works out.
You better get that Wi-Fi up and running for the Thursday preview show.
Yeah, short week for everybody. Very difficult. Nick Sirianni not talking till 4:50 today. Late in the afternoon.
Tell Nick, and you don't get Jonathan. Are you even going to get Gannon on Tuesday, or is that the?
I hope so. Schedule will be out at some point today.
Happy Tuesday, not for the defensive substitutes. They don't get into the game, but the offensive guys get some run. Yeah,
Fair question.
We need some Gannon answers this week, McMullen.
He will be asked that question. If not from me, from somebody. I'll probably be the first question he gets because there's no reason to
question anything else. They were dominant against the Steelers this week. All right, we'll be back here. You got Ricky Yes coming up next. Partner, I will see you in 2 and 2, right? Since you're gonna leave me at the altar twice this week, you better be here tomorrow.
Let's do it. I don't have the schedule, but we'll do it. I might have to miss Jonathan again, but we'll do it.
McMullen and McDonald back in 2 and 2.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate inside the locker room and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.